Imagine waking up after 6 months in a coma with no memory of the crash that put you there. Now, imagine discovering your family isn't just keeping secrets. They're keeping you captive when Dr. Aiden Lee defies hospital protocol to save a billionaire heiress trapped in a mysterious coma. He uncovers a dark conspiracy that could cost him everything. What happens next? A forbidden love, a deadly family betrayal, and a fight for survival that will leave you questioning everything. Can love truly conquer betrayal? Or will it all come crashing down? Watch to find out. Can you hear it? The steady hum of machines fills the ICU at St. Augustine's, their rhythmic beeping a haunting reminder of life clinging on in this sterile, white-walled room. Olivia Jean lies there, motionless, her dark hair fanning out like a shadow against the crisp white sheets. For 6 long months, she's been trapped in a coma. 6 months. The mystery of her accident hangs heavy, like a storm cloud refusing to break. Nurses glide through their routines with mechanical precision, but not Dr. Aiden Lee. Oh no, he's different. Aiden stands at her bedside, his jaw tight, his white coat draped over a wrinkled shirt that screams too many sleepless nights. His dark eyes lock onto the bandages wrapped around Olivia's chest, yellowed, stiff, neglected. How could they let this happen? His fingers hover over them, the air crackling with tension. Dr. Lee, stop. Margaret, the head nurse, looms beside him, her voice slicing through the quiet like a scalpel. You can't just change her bandages like that. There's a protocol? Protocol? Aiden's voice is low, but it burns with defiance. She's been lying here for 6 months, Margaret, with these bandages strangling her breathing. Protocol? I care about saving her. Margaret's lips press into a thin, disapproving line. She's Olivia Jean, billionaire, public figure. One wrong move, and her family isn't here. Aiden snaps, his patience shattering like glass. He points to the bandages, but I am, and I'm done letting this go on. Before Margaret can stop him, he grabs sterile scissors, his hands steady despite the fire in his chest. Carefully, he cuts through the old fabric, peeling it away to reveal faint red indentations marring Olivia's pale skin. Aiden's breath catches. How could they let her suffer like this? She's been suffocating under the weight of hospital bureaucracy. Margaret exhales sharply. You're risking your career, Aiden. Then let them fire me, he mutters, his hands moving with the precision of a surgeon, replacing the old bandages with fresh ones, snug but gentle, allowing her chest to rise freely. His fingertips brush her skin for a fleeting moment, a spark of warmth against her cold stillness. What was that? Silence settles over the room, thick with unspoken tension. Margaret watches, her protests fading as Aiden steps back, wiping his hands on his coat, his eyes glued to Olivia's face. Then, can you believe it? The heart monitor stutters. A single beep stretches, then another, faster, stronger. Aiden's breath hitches. Margaret gasps, her clipboard slipping from her grasp, clattering to the floor. The numbers climb 60, 65, 70, 70, 70. Aiden leans closer, his pulse racing, a faint hitch in Olivia's chest, her lips parting slightly, a sign of life. What the hell? He whispers, barely audible. For the first time in 6 months, Olivia Jean is stirring, and Aiden has just shattered the silence that held her captive. The ICU glows a dim blue at night, the machines humming like restless spirits. Aiden slumps in a corner, hunched over a tablet, shadows carving deep lines into his exhausted face. That startling spike in Olivia's heart rate, it's burned into his mind, her pulse surging as if she felt him. It doesn't add up. He swipes through her medical file. 6 months of scans, notes, dead ends. Olivia Gian, 32, crashed her Mercedes on a rain-slicked highway. No witnesses, just a twisted wreck and a coma. CT scans show a mild concussion, minor bruising, nothing that explains this. A neurologist's note reads, persistent vegetative state, cause unclear. Unclear? That's not good enough for Aiden. Rubbing his bleary eyes, he replays the moment he changed her bandages, easing her breathing. Did that wake her? No, something darker gnaws at him, tightening his chest. What if her coma isn't natural? What if someone wanted her this way? He paces, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Olivia lies still, the ventilator hissing, her face sharp and serene, a tech titan who conquered Wall Street and Silicon Valley. She has enemies, family, rivals, vultures circling her empire. Could someone have silenced her? The thought hits like a thunderbolt. Drugs, subtle, sinister, keeping her trapped. Hospitals can hide power plays for the rich, can't they? Aiden's pulse races. If this is true, he can't trust anyone here. He'll investigate alone. He slips into the dark hallway, heart pounding, and heads to the supply room. The door creaks open, shelves glinting with vials, morphine, saline, nothing suspicious. Then, behind a pile of gauze, he finds it, an unmarked vial, half full of clear liquid, no label. His breath catches. This isn't standard. Pocketing it, his heart thundering, he hurries back to his office and dials Jake, his lab tech friend. Aiden, it's 2:00 a.m. Jake groans, analyze this for me. Aiden whispers, urgency lacing his voice. Off the books. Tomorrow, Jake grumbles but agrees. By morning, Aiden meets him at a grimy coffee shop. Sliding the vial across the table, Jake swirls it, squinting. No label? Where'd you get this? Just tested. Fast, Aiden urges. 2 days later, Jake calls. Aiden's in the cafeteria, his coffee gone cold, low-dose anesthetic. Jake says, keep someone under, without knocking them out. What's this about? Aiden's stomach lurches. Thanks, Jake. He hangs up, mind spinning. A sedative perfect for silent sabotage. Someone her family, a rival, did this. He needs more proof, but this is a start. That night, in the ICU's eerie blue haze, Olivia lies unchanged, her face hauntingly blank. Aiden sits close, the vial a heavy weight in his pocket. He leans in, whispering, I'll uncover the truth, Olivia, whether you can hear me or not. His voice is rough with resolve. He doesn't know who or why, but he'll fight for her. The monitor beeps steadily, yet that earlier spike echoes in his head like a war cry. Rain pounds the hospital windows, a relentless roar drowning out the ICUs. Lightning flashes, casting jagged shadows across the room where Aiden sits. Clipboard in hand, it's past midnight, and Manhattan is a chaotic mess outside St. Augustine's. He's been on shift for 16 grueling hours, exhaustion clawing at him, but Olivia Gian keeps him awake. Her chart lies open, numbers, notes, but his eyes drift to her still form, pale, her dark hair spilling over the pillow, the ventilator hissing air into her lungs. 6 months of unbroken silence. Aiden stands, stretching, and grabs his stethoscope. Routine vitals check. Same as always. He crosses the room, the storm rumbling faintly, and presses the stethoscope to her chest. Pulse 62, oxygen, steady normal. He adjusts her blanket. Then lightning flashes, illuminating her face. Her eyelids twitch. Aiden freezes, breath held. Was that real? A faint flutter his imagination? He leans closer, waiting. Nothing. Wishful thinking, he mutters. But as he straightens, her lashes part. Dark eyes blink up, hazy but alive. His heart slams against his ribs. The stethoscope clattering to the floor. "Olivian," he whispers, voice trembling. Her gaze locks onto his, wide, searching, hands shaking. He flicks a penlight across her pupils they constrict, slow but real. He taps her knee. Her leg jerks faintly. She's awake aware. After 6 months. "Holy!" He stops, voice quaking. He paces, then returns. Her eyes following, intense, despite her confusion. She can't speak, the tube silencing her, but her look fear, relief. Something deeper shakes him to his core. This is a miracle. He half laughs, mind racing. The bandages, the sedative, did he break through, or was it chance? Either way, she's back. Then it hits him. If someone drugged her, they'll act if they know. His jaw tightens. No telling Margaret, no one yet. He'll protect her, find the culprit, their secret. Okay, he pulls a chair close, eyes level. "Hey," he says, softening his voice. "You're safe. Olivian. I'm Aiden, Dr. Sex. Lee. Hear me?" One blink for yes. He smiles faintly. "Don't move much, okay? You've been out a while." Another slow blink, her gaze steady. He wets her lips with a swab, her eyes softening. "Thanks," he murmurs, propping her pillows, hands firm despite the adrenaline surging through him. "I've been here for you," he says, settling in. "Got some stories." He talks storm, spilled coffee, a stray dog's simple things to ground her. Her eyes stay fixed on him. He teaches her signals. 1 blink, yes. 2, no. Pain? 2 blinks. Tired? 1. A fragile rhythm grows. The storm rages as he rambles med school. His stubbornness. A botched suture. Her lips twitch. A hint of a smile. It stops him cold. She understands. He rests his fingers on hers. "You're tough, Olivian," he says. "We'll get through this." Her fingers curl weakly, grasping his, a frail but fierce trust. His breath catches, throat tight. He sits, her hand in his, rain pounding, the world shifting. She's awake, and so is he. The hospital corridors buzz with midday chaos trays clattering, phones ringing, voices overlapping in a frenzy. Aiden barely notices, his focus razor sharp as he strides toward the admin wing. A manila folder tucked under his arm. The past week has been a whirlwind of late nights and covert searches, piecing together the puzzle of Olivian's coma. Her awakening has ignited a fire in him. And now every clue points to one name, Daniel Nuon, her younger brother. Daniel, a slick, polished man in his late 20s, all tailored suits and calculated smiles, stepped into the spotlight after her accident, running her sprawling tech empire with an ease that sets Aiden's nerves on edge. The more he digs, the uglier it gets. Daniel's been at the hospital too often, visits logged at odd hours, always alone. Then there's the vial, the sedative. It's not hard to connect the dots. Daniel has the motive, the means, and the ruthless ambition to keep his sister out of the picture. Aiden's breakthrough comes that morning. He sweet-talks a security guard into letting him review ICU footage from months back, grainy but damning. The video shows Daniel in a darkened hallway, slipping a small vial to a nervous nurse, Jenny, a quiet woman on Olivian's rotation. Aiden's pulse races as he watches Daniel clap Jenny's shoulder, sealing the deal. Hours later, he corners her in the break room, recorder hidden in his pocket. "I didn't want to," Jenny stammers, eyes darting. He said it was just to help her rest, that she'd wake up soon. Then he gave me $5 grand to keep quiet. Her voice cracks. "I didn't know it'd go on this long. Can you imagine the weight of truth in your hands?" That confession from Jenny, paired with the grainy security footage, was pure gold. Aiden had printed stills from the video, each one time stamped and crystal clear, and stuffed them into the manila folder, now burning against his side like a brand. Daniel wasn't just careless, he was a predator, drugging his own sister to steal her life's work. Aiden's fists clenched, his knuckles white, as he stormed toward the executive lounge where Daniel was schmoozing with hospital brass. This ends today, right now. He shoved through the glass doors, the room falling deathly silent as every head snapped toward him. Daniel lounged at the head of a polished table, his suit pristine, a coffee cup cradled in his manicured hand. He glanced up, his smirk flickering for a split second as he registered Aiden's furious approach. Dr. Lee, Daniel drawled, setting the cup down with a clink. To what do I owe this? Interruption. Oh, the nerve of that smug tone. Aiden slammed the folder onto the table, papers spilling out stills of the damning footage. Jenny's transcribed confession, staring up like an accusation. This, he said, his voice low and seething with fury. You've been poisoning her, Daniel, keeping Olivian in that coma so you could play king of her empire. The room erupted in shocked murmurs, suits shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. Daniel's eyes narrowed, but that razor-sharp smile held firm. That's a bold accusation, Doctor, he sneered. Got proof, or are you just chasing headlines? Aiden jabbed a finger at the photos, pinning Daniel's grainy image under his wrath. Security footage. You handing off the vial. And your nurse? She talked. Daniel. $5,000 to dope Olivian up and keep her quiet sound familiar? Daniel leaned back, crossing his arms, cool as ice. Creative storytelling. But you're out of your league, Lee. One call to the board, and your career's toast. You're nothing here. Nothing? Oh, he'd see about that. Aiden stepped closer, his voice a guttural growl. Try it. I've got copies of everything, tapes, files, witnesses. You're done, Daniel. I'll protect her, no matter what you throw at me. Daniel's smirk vanished, his face hardening into something feral. He rose, towering over Aiden, his voice a venomous hiss. You're a dead man walking, Lee. She's my sister, my business. You think you can touch me? I already have. Aiden shot back, unflinching, his eyes blazing. The cops get this next. If you don't back off. Your move, Daniel. A tense silence stretched, the room holding its breath. Daniel's jaw twitched, his eyes flicking to the scattered papers, then back to Aiden. Finally, he sneered, snatching his coat. Enjoy your little crusade, he spat, brushing past. It won't last. The door slammed behind him, the sound echoing like a gunshot, leaving Aiden standing tall amid the stunned onlookers. He exhaled, adrenaline still surging through his veins, and gathered the scattered papers with trembling hands. That confrontation? A gamble that showed his hand and made a powerful enemy, but it was worth it. Daniel knew he was exposed, and that gave Olivian a fighting chance. Aiden left the lounge, his steps quickening as he headed back to the ICU. The folder now a weapon clutched tightly in his grip. The storm from days ago had cleared, sunlight streaming through the windows as he entered Olivian's room. She lay there, eyes closed, her breathing steady through the ventilator. Aiden pulled the chair close, the folder resting on his lap like a shield. He leaned in, his voice soft but forged with iron resolve. I won't let them hurt you anymore, Olivian, he vowed, his hand brushing hers. Her fingers didn't move, but he felt her presence fragile yet fierce, igniting his determination. Daniel might fight back, but Aiden was ready. This was war now, and he'd win it for her. The ICU felt less like a prison now, its sterile walls bathed in the golden haze of late afternoon sun, spilling through the blinds. Olivia Nuon's bed was angled upright, the ventilator gone, replaced by a nasal cannula whispering oxygen into her lungs. She'd been awake for a week, can you believe it? Her recovery a slow, miraculous crawl from the edge of oblivion. Aiden Lee stood by her side, a clipboard in hand, but his focus wasn't on the numbers. It was on her. Her dark eyes, once clouded, now sparkled with fragile clarity, and her voice, though raspy and faint, was breaking the silence. "Water," she croaked, her throat raw from disuse. Aiden dropped the clipboard and grabbed a cup, guiding the straw to her lips with care. She sipped, wincing slightly, then nodded a weak thanks. He flashed a small, genuine smile. "You're getting stronger every day," he said, settling into the chair beside her. "A few more days, and you'll be bossing me around like a pro." Her lips twitched, a ghost of a smile breaking through. "Already am," she managed, each word a labored breath. Aiden chuckled, the sound melting the room's tension. She'd started speaking 2 days ago, just fragments at first, single syllables squeezed out between coughs. Now she could string sentences together, and every word felt like a triumph. He'd kept her awakening under wraps, feeding the staff vague updates about stable vitals while guarding her from prying eyes. Daniel's threat still loomed like a dark cloud, but Aiden pushed it aside, focusing on Olivian. She needed him now, not just as a doctor, but as something more. He pulled out a small towel and dabbed her forehead, her skin cool but clammy from the effort of waking. "Tell me," she rasped, her gaze locking onto his with startling intensity. "Why you?" Aiden paused, the towel hovering. "Why me what? Why fight for me?" She pressed, her voice barely a whisper. He set the towel down, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "Because you're worth it, Olivian," he said simply, his voice raw with conviction. "Someone tried to bury you. I couldn't let them win." Her eyes glistened, a flicker of raw emotion flashing through them. She turned her head slightly, staring at the ceiling, her breath hitching. "No one ever." She stopped, swallowing hard. "My life, empty, family, liars. I didn't want to wake." Aiden's chest tightened. He'd suspected it. Her coma wasn't just drugs, but a surrender to despair. "What changed?" he asked, his voice soft, almost afraid of the answer. She looked back at him, her gaze piercing despite its weakness. "You." The word hung there, heavy, unguarded, like a confession. Aiden held her stare, the weight of it sinking deep into his soul. He'd been her anchor, pulling her back when she'd let go. Now she was reaching for him, and he couldn't look away. Days blurred into a routine of recovery. Aiden guided her through physical therapy, his hands steadying her trembling arms as she gripped parallel bars. Her first steps were shaky, her legs buckling under months of atrophy, but he caught her every time, his voice a constant murmur of encouragement. "One more, Olivian. You've got this." She'd grit her teeth and push, sweat beading on her brow, and he'd beam when she made it, pride lighting up his tired eyes. In the evenings, he stayed late. Long after his shift ended, the nurses stopped questioning it, leaving them alone in the dim room. He'd bring a deck of cards or a book, anything, to keep her mind sharp, but mostly, they talked. He told her about growing up in Queens, the scholarship that got him through med school, the time he crashed his bike into a dumpster and laughed it off. She listened, her raspy chuckles growing stronger, and slowly she opened up too. "My father controlled everything," she said one night, her voice clearer now, though still rough. "Mother died young, Daniel. He was jealous, wanted it all. I built the company alone. No one cared." Aiden leaned closer, his hand resting near hers on the bed. "I care," he said, firm but quiet. "You're not alone anymore, Olivian." Her eyes softened, a tear slipping down her cheek. She wiped it away, embarrassed, but he caught her hand gently, holding it until she relaxed. Their talks deepened, weaving a thread between them, his stubborn hope, her buried strength. He'd catch her watching him sometimes, a look he couldn't name, and his pulse would quicken, unbidden. One evening, the room glowed with the soft amber of dusk, the city's hum, a distant lullaby. Aiden sat cross-legged on the chair, recounting a disastrous attempt at cooking for his med school roommates. Olivia laughed, a real throaty sound, and he grinned, savoring it. She shifted, wincing as she adjusted herself, and he moved to help, propping her pillows. "You're good at this," she said, her voice a whisper but steady. "At what? Bad cooking stories?" "No," she paused, her eyes locking onto his. "Making me feel alive." Aiden stilled, his hands lingering on the pillow. The air thickened, charged with something new. She reached out, her fingers brushing his, tentative but deliberate. "You're the reason I wanted to live again," she rasped, her voice breaking with emotion. His heart slammed against his ribs, a rush of warmth flooding him. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, caught in the raw honesty of her words. She'd bared herself, and he felt it, the pull, the ache he'd ignored for weeks. He didn't pull away. Instead, he slid his hand over hers, lacing their fingers together, his thumb tracing her knuckles. "Olivia," he started, but the words failed him. She leaned forward, just a fraction, and he met her halfway. In a quiet, tender surge, he pulled her into his arms, careful of her frailty but firm in his hold. She melted against him, her head resting on his shoulder, her breath warm against his neck. He buried his face in her hair, the scent of hospital soap mingling with something uniquely her. They stayed like that, wrapped in silence, the world fading to nothing but the beat of their hearts. It was no longer just patient and doctor, protector and protected. It was them, together, and it was unmistakably love. The courthouse steps gleamed under the harsh glare of camera flashes, a swarm of reporters buzzing like flies as Olivia Nuon descended, her stride steady despite the cane in her hand. 3 weeks out of the ICU, she was a shadow of her former self, thinner, paler, but her eyes burned with a fire Aiden knew so well. Beside her, he kept pace, his jaw set, the manila folder of evidence, now a legal weapon in the hands of their attorney, Rachel Kim. Today, they'd take Daniel down, brick by brick. Can you feel the tension crackling in the air? Inside the courtroom, it's a battlefield of polished wood and whispered suspense. Every glance loaded with unspoken stakes. Olivia Nuon sits at the plaintiff's table, her dark suit crisp, her gaze locked on her brother across the aisle like a laser. Daniel lounges in his chair, that infuriating smirk plastered on his face, his lawyer a slick fortress of confidence beside him. How dare he look so smug? Aiden takes the seat behind Olivia, his hands clenched so tight his knuckles turn white, every nerve in his body screaming. Rachel Kim, their attorney, stands tall, her voice slicing through the room like a blade as she lays out the case. Attempted murder, fraud, a conspiracy to steal Olivia's empire. This is it, the moment of truth. The security footage plays on a screen, and there's Daniel's shadowy figure, unmistakable, slipping the vial to Jenny with a sly hand. The nurse's recorded confession follows, her voice trembling but clear as a bell. Each word a nail in Daniel's coffin. His smirk falters finally as the evidence stacks higher, his lawyer scrambling to object, flailing like a fish out of water. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, leans forward, her eyes narrowing to slits. Rachel calls Olivia to the stand, and she rises, her cane tapping the floor with quiet defiance. Can you imagine the courage it takes? Her testimony is raw, gut-wrenching 6 months stolen from her life, her brother's betrayal cutting deeper than any knife, the drugs that chained her to silence. The room hangs on her every word, and Aiden's chest swells with pride, his heart pounding for her strength. When she finishes, Daniel's lawyer tries to spin it, tossing out weak claims of stress and misunderstanding. But the judge isn't buying it, not for a second. The gavel slams down, echoing like thunder. "Recess until tomorrow," she declares, and Daniel's venomous glare shoots to Aiden, pure poison in his eyes. Outside, chaos erupts. Reporters swarm like vultures, but Aiden shields Olivian, guiding her to a waiting car with steady hands, though he feels the weight of Daniel's stare boring into them. They've won the day, but is it really over? That night, Rachel calls with electrifying news. The prosecution is pushing for jail time. Olivian's smile is a rare, fierce thing, like a spark in the dark, and Aiden squeezes her hand, his heart soaring. "He's finished," she says, and he nods, believing it with every fiber of his being. The next morning, the trial resumes, and the verdict hits like a lightning bolt. Guilty. Daniel's face twists in rage as cuffs snap onto his wrists, his threats drowned by the courtroom's murmur. Olivian exhales, leaning into Aiden, her relief washing over them both like a warm tide. But as they step out of the courthouse, the air shifts too quiet, too still. Aiden's instincts scream danger. He pulls Olivian closer, scanning the crowd with hawk-like focus. Then he sees it, a hulking figure in a hoodie, barreling through the reporters, coming straight for them. "Olivian, down!" Aiden shouts, shoving her behind him with lightning speed. The thug swings a meaty fist, but Aiden ducks, adrenaline surging through his veins like wildfire. The man lunges again, a glint of metal flashing a knife. Aiden throws himself forward, tackling the attacker, but pain sears his arm as the blade grazes him. He grunts, pinning the thug's wrist with all his strength until security swarms in, hauling the man away in a frenzy. "Olivian!" Her scream pierces the chaos, her hands grabbing Aiden as he staggers back, blood soaking his sleeve. "Aiden!" she cries, her voice breaking, raw with terror. He forces a grin, clutching his arm. "I'm fine, just a scratch." But she's not listening, her fingers trembling as she presses her scarf against the wound, her face pale with fear. How could this happen? The crowd parts, paramedics rushing in, and soon they're in an ambulance. Olivian refusing to leave his side, her hand gripping his like a lifeline. Hours later, the story explodes on national TV. Olivian sits in a studio, her cane resting against the chair, her voice steady as she faces the cameras. "My brother tried to kill me," she declares, unflinching, her words cutting through the air. "He drugged me, stole my company, sent someone to finish it today. But I'm here because of one man, Dr. Aiden Lee. He saved me, and I'm taking back what's mine." The anchor nods, stunned, as Olivian lays bare the truth, her recovery, Daniel's vile plot, Aiden's unyielding courage. By morning, her company's board reinstates her, and public support floods in like a tidal wave. That night, Aiden lies in a hospital bed at St. Phol, Augustine's, his arm bandaged, a dull ache pulsing beneath the gauze. The door creaks open, and Olivian slips in, her sharp suit swapped for a soft sweater, her hair loose and framing her face. She carries a tray water, a cloth, a small first aid kit. "Your turn," she says, her voice soft but firm, setting it down with care. He raises an eyebrow, a spark of humor in his eyes. "I'm the patient now." "Exactly," she replies, sitting beside him, dipping the cloth in water and gently wiping the sweat from his brow. Her touch is careful, reverent, mirroring the way he'd tended to her weeks ago. How the tables have turned. "You scared me today," she murmurs, her eyes meeting his, glistening with unshed tears. "I can't lose you, Aiden." He catches her hand, holding it against his cheek, warmth flooding his chest. "You won't," he says, his voice rough with emotion. "I'd take 100 hits for you, Olivian." She leans in, resting her forehead against his, her breath warm on his skin. The room fades, leaving just them, her tending his wound, him shielding her heart, their roles reversed in a quiet, unbreakable bond. The penthouse gleams with floor-to-ceiling windows, the Manhattan skyline sprawling beyond the glass like a glittering dream. Olivia Nuon stands by the edge, her silhouette sharp in a tailored blazer, fully recovered now, 3 months since the trial. Her strength radiates in every step. Aiden Lee leans against the kitchen counter, a beer in hand, watching her with a quiet ache in his heart. She's reclaimed her empire, her name splashed across headlines. But lately, those headlines have turned vicious. The tabloids are relentless. Millionaire heiress slumming it with doctor boyfriend. Is Olivia Nuon buying loyalty? Photos of them leaving the hospital, grabbing coffee, are plastered everywhere, captions dripping with venom. She's the titan, he's the nobody, and the world can't stop gossiping. Aiden scrolled through his phone that morning, the comments slicing deeper than he'd admit. She's just using him for the story. He's in over his head. Doubt creeps in, a slow poison he can't shake. Does he really belong here? Olivian turns, catching his gaze. "You're quiet tonight," she says, crossing the room, her voice smooth but probing. She ditched the cane weeks ago, her stride confident again, but her eyes soften when they land on him. He sets the beer down, forcing a smile. Just tired. Long shift. It's not a lie, but it's not the whole truth either. She tilts her head, unconvinced, and sits beside him on the couch, her knee brushing his. "Aiden, talk to me." He exhales, running a hand through his hair. "It's nothing. Just the noise out there. People saying stuff about us." He meets her eyes, hesitating. "They think you're slumming it with me, that I'm some charity case you're propping up." Her brow furrows, a flash of anger crossing her face. "They're idiots. You know that, do I?" The words slip out, sharper than he meant. "Olivian, you're a billionaire genius, the whole world at your feet. I'm just a guy with a stethoscope in a rent-controlled apartment. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't fit." She stares at him, stunned, then leans closer, her voice firm. "You think I care about that? After everything we've been through?" He looks away, his throat tight. "I care. I don't want to drag you down. You deserve a life without my baggage. Someone who matches you, not some tabloid punchline." His insecurity spills out, raw and jagged, clashing with the love pulsing beneath it. He stands, pacing, the words tearing free. "Maybe we should step back, let you breathe." Olivian's eyes widen, then harden. She rises, grabbing his arm to stop him. "No," she says, her tone slicing through his spiral. "You don't get to decide that for me. Aiden, listen to me." She snaps, pulling him to face her. "I was dead inside before you, not the coma. Before that. Alone. Betrayed. Nothing real. You gave me back my life. And now you want to walk away because some hacks with keyboards think you're not enough?" Her voice shakes, fierce and pleading. "You're everything." Aiden's breath catches, her words sinking deep, but the doubt lingers, a stubborn shadow. She sees it, and her jaw sets. "Fine," she says, stepping back. "You want proof? Watch this." The next day, she calls a press conference. Aiden stands backstage, arms crossed, As Olivian faces a sea of microphones in a sleek downtown studio, the room buzzes reporters, cameras, the weight of her name drawing them like moths. She wears a simple black dress, her presence commanding, and when she speaks, the chatter dies. "There's been talk about my life," she begins, her voice steady, ringing clear. "About Aiden Lee. Let me set it straight. He's not my doctor boyfriend or some pawn. He saved me not with wealth, but with his heart. He fought for me when no one else did, risked everything to pull me out of hell. I'm here because of him, and I love him for it." She pauses, her eyes finding Aiden's through the crowd. "So write what you want. We're not going anywhere." The room erupts, shouts, clicks, gasps, but Aiden barely hears it. Her words hit like a tidal wave, washing away the noise in his head. She steps off the stage, ignoring the chaos, and walks straight to him, her gaze unwavering. "Believe me now?" she asks, softer, a challenge in her smile. He pulls her close, his arms wrapping around her, the world fading to just them. "Yeah," he murmurs into her hair, his voice thick. "I do!" She presses against him, her hands on his chest, and he feels the shift, doubt replaced by certainty, love louder than the critics. They leave the studio hand in hand. The cities roar a distant hum. The backlash will fade, the gossip will tire, but they won't. They've committed to each other, to a life above the noise, and nothing will break them now. The air carries the faint scent of spring blossoming trees and fresh earth as Aiden Lee stands under a simple wooden arch in a Brooklyn park, his hands clasped nervously in front of him. A year has passed since the press conference, and now, at 29, he wears a plain gray suit, no tie, his glasses slightly fogged from the breeze. Before him, Olivia Nuon walks down a makeshift aisle of wildflowers, her white dress flowing, soft and unpretentious, a radiant smile breaking across her face. At 33, she glows, her dark hair loose, no trace of the heiress she once was, just a woman in love. The ceremony is small, intimate, 20 guests, mostly Aiden's med school friends, and a few loyal staff from St. Augustine's. No cameras, no fanfare, just the rustle of leaves and the officiant's gentle voice. They exchange vows they wrote themselves, Aiden's voice catching as he promises to stand by her through storms and silence, Olivian steady as she swears to build a life, not of wealth, but of us. When they kiss, the applause is soft, heartfelt, a quiet cheer for a love hard won. Afterward, they don't jet off to some lavish honeymoon. Olivian has other plans. 2 weeks later, she sits in her penthouse office, signing papers that dissolve most of her fortune, billions funneled into charities for education, healthcare, women's shelters. The tabloids call it madness. She calls it freedom. She keeps enough to live comfortably, but the empire she built is no longer her cage.